Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Weather to Watch. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. I will review the blizzard of 2026, which happened over the last two and a half days, blew away a lot of records. There is still cold air to be found in the U.S., but an unmistakable pattern of very warm conditions as well. We'll take a look at all of that coming up. Well, here's the visible satellite loop in the afternoon on this Tuesday. A rush of cold air out over the Atlantic. You can see it leaving an impression outlining the coastal areas as that cold, dry air picks up moisture from the water and outlines the coast almost perfectly, because it just takes physically X number of miles for that to be accomplished. So this is a very interesting pattern that always shows up in the winter. Meanwhile, high clouds, cirrus clouds draping over the northern plains. There is another system right here, not as potent as the last one, hard to imagine one that could be, but this is going to deliver some snow, and moisture is starting to becoming more common coming ashore now in the Pacific, in Oregon and in Washington. Here's the upper levels. And so we just generally have this sliding slope of flow at 500 millibars from west-northwest to east-southeast. And we have this little short wave coming around here, another one coming around here. Those are just little disturbances in the upper atmosphere that are often accompanied by cold fronts, and sometimes can have low pressure develop at the head of those right there, and like right there, for example. And then cirrus clouds, like I showed you like this, are almost a dead giveaway that clouds are coming up over the top of a ridge. That's what this is here, and coming down into the plains. Here's the surface map, and we do have one low ahead of that short wave north of Lake Superior here. And this little short wave is really just a trough of low pressure showing up. And that is really just kind of keeping, the weather in play in the Northeast. Meanwhile, this front is cutting across Kansas and Missouri, warm front moving into Illinois, but that's all pretty much precipitation free. Let's take a look at that blizzard and the fact that they will be seeing more snow in that area over the next couple of days. It was called the blizzard of 26 before it even put a flake of snow on the ground, and it did verify very, very well. In fact, it exceeded forecast levels. So if you're just looking at this, the color coding quickly is yellow is 6 to 8 inches. When you start getting into the red, the first red color is 18 to 24 inches. Then the maroon color on the left here, that's 30 to 36 inches. And yes, there's almost a kind of a deep purple brown color right there. There's a few of those in there too. That's in excess of 3 feet of snow. And I don't know if you can actually make this out because there's a lot of numbers on here. But if you look around the Boston area, for example, they had anywhere in the central part of the city 10 to 15 inches of snow. But then it quickly ramped up to a foot or more south of the city. And Rhode Island really got hit really hard. Long Island got hit pretty hard too. Some of these records in Rhode Island beat the previous big blizzard of 1978 by leagues. And also Warwick had almost 38 inches of snow. That broke the record of 1978 and also broke a long-standing 121 years snowfall total for the date, or for the snow total actually, for the whole storm. And here's some cities. I got this from Pivotal Weather, but you can see Boston had about 20 inches of snow. Providence had about 30 inches of snow. And right around the New York City area, about 16 or so out over, over Long Island. How about that button? There you go. Out over Long Island, that one there, Brentwood 14, is a little underestimating what actually happened in that area. Okay, it's going to snow there again. Anything else will seem trivial. But this isn't really, digging out is digging out, right? But we don't need any more snow. Yet, if you see yellow showing up here northeast of Pittsburgh and in upstate New York and in parts of Massachusetts and Connecticut, that's another 6 inches of snow expected through Friday morning. That's that clipper system that I just showed you. Meanwhile, UP of Michigan getting buried as they always do. There is a winter weather advisory in effect for many of these areas here for tonight and also tomorrow. And if we turn our attention out west, mountain snows are still occurring. Now, this area here has gotten pretty good snows over the winter. So has these mountain ranges out here. This has been a little lacking down here and south of there, even into the Four Corners region, and not much encouragement there. I don't really see any change in the pattern that's going to bring snow to them anytime soon. There are winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, a smattering of them all around Wyoming, Colorado, and right off to the mountains east of Salt Lake City. 30%, that's how much of the country, the lower 48 at least, is covered in snow. You can see that one band that occurred about a week ago, and then, of course, obviously this snow that occurred over the weekend and into Monday. Let's take a look at what the temperatures are going to do. There's a freeze warning in effect for interior parts of northern Florida and into southeastern Georgia, with a frost advisory surrounding that as temperatures go down, obviously below freezing in this darker purple area. And the frost possibilities are diving all the way down into central Florida. Pretty cold air, high pressure sitting over their heads, as you saw on the map earlier tonight. But now the high temperature trends, even though Florida is showing up as below normal, they still have 70s for highs tomorrow. Another shot of cold air here. And New England, a little chilly still, with snow cover on the ground. It's going to be hard to warm them up really quickly. But this catches your eye, including 72 in Dodge and 69 degrees for a high in Denver. And it looks like Dallas will be 83 degrees. And it looks pretty warm and won't change much. In fact, it'll spread northward by Friday, with much of the country seeing above normal temperatures. If it looks yellow to red, it's above normal. It'll be 68 degrees in Omaha on Friday, almost unheard of for this time of year. My town, Springfield, 70 degrees. Kind of looking forward to that a little bit. And even Florida beginning to warm up, with 80s starting to show up in the state once again. Now, by the weekend, another little shot of cold air drapes down into the Great Plains and into the Great Lakes and into the Northeast on Sunday, with highs changing, with Chicago only 32 degrees, Omaha only 33 degrees, but the dividing line is right through there. Now, generally speaking, if we go out beyond Sunday and take a look at Monday through Friday of next week, that cold air wears off, and it's still a really warm pattern for much of the U.S., with the epicenter of confidence right around the Four Corners, but still a high confidence that northern New England, especially northern Maine, will be very, very cold indeed. There is some rain to talk about. Let's do that. This is the Weather Prediction Center's total precipitation. Now, this doesn't discriminate between rain and snow, so all this is snow up here. This is what we'll focus on in a minute. This is rain, and most of this is just mountain snow. Might be some lower elevation precipitation, but very light when compared to the mountain snows expected out there over the next 5 days. Let's take a look at that rainfall, though. That we're looking at the Tennessee River Valley and the southern Appalachian mountain chain here. So the first time it changes to purple, that's 1.5 inches. And then the next couple of darker colors get us up to around 2 inches of rain through the next 3 days. Generally speaking, though, going way out to Monday through Friday of next week, we have a weather pattern developing across the Central Plains, in particular West Texas and parts of New Mexico. And that's welcome for most folks. I will show you toward the end of my presentation here what the drought index is looking like and how one rain area might help out some of the hardest and driest areas here over the last several weeks. Pattern change is very familiar. So many times I've shown you this over the winter. It has featured a ridge of high pressure out west and a trough of low pressure in the east. Now, this has reversed itself once or twice, but generally that is what has brought snows to all this area here since November, really. And then we had one big storm, if you remember that did that. And then, of course, the latest one was that. All the ones up here are because of this pattern, which finally flipped and brought that snow several weeks ago to this area, right before, well, when was that? Last week of January, I think. So anyway, we're back to this again. So this encourages cold air here and here. And if you look at the temperature anomalies, again, this is average over 7 days, and it's the average temperature, not the high. But Florida's still chilly on average through that period, as will much of the eastern seaboard. Meanwhile, the west continues to bake. Let's take a look at 2 weeks out. Have some rain hazards showing up. This is, again, 2 weeks out. So specifically, this is the 4th of March through the 8th of March. And there's a pretty large area of a slight risk of a rain hazard here, which includes much of Texas, all of Arkansas, Missouri, much of Illinois, Indiana, into the Tennessee River Valley and Ohio River Valley as well. Now, this would be welcome if this were to pan out. We don't want anything excessive, of course, but just rain in general would be nice, because here's a look at the drought index, and you can see if I put a circle where that rain forecast is, that covers a lot of ground. In fact, some of the worst and driest areas like northeastern Arkansas might get some relief. It would take more than just one outlook like that to relieve that. And South Texas is a little dry too, and so is much of Florida. Now, let's go back to the 2-week outlook here. We do have a temperature risk. Again, the 4th through the 5th in particular, the cold fronts keep on coming, and with snow on the ground, a slight risk of temperature hazard in through much of New England and upper New York State. And while we're on the subject, going that far out, I did want to show you the supercell composite index, and that this is the 3rd through the 9th. West Texas might be in for a little bit of trouble. That kind of coincides to this increase, I think, in flow coming around the Gulf and flowing up into the Great Plains. Remember, the rainfall forecast was enhanced right before that, so it looks like that's going to continue. And the reason I say that is I go one more week out, March 10th through the 16th, and these are the highest indices I've seen so far for supercell this year. So South Texas, Southwest Texas, maybe even getting up into Oklahoma might see some supercells come the second week of March. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.